Welcome. Today we're going to talk about personalization, or more specifically, deconstructing the idea of personalization within the realm of e-commerce and related CRM. First, a little bit about Jetlore. So Jetlore was founded 5 years ago by Eldar Sadikoff and Montse Medina, two Stanford PhD candidates in computer science, and they did a lot of work in discovering signal in different data to understand consumer behavior. And they were able to deliver a product that's had a lot of commercial success. Today we call it personalized content orchestration. We'll talk about what that means in a little bit. But first of all, some exciting news about Jetlore. Jetlore was named a cool vendor by Gartner for 2016 in retail. And some of the key findings relate to the need for content to be fresh and relevant, and that's a baseline for developing successful personalization strategies. We'll talk more about that here in a little bit. So, personalization. Why does it matter? Why are we talking about this today? Well, when done right, personalization delivers better customer experiences, more engaging experiences that over the long run deliver more revenue. You can form a better relationship, with kind of experiences that listen to what the customer has to say and responds in kind with different content, different products, different sorts of material that can engage them. This opens a dialogue. And this is really important because there's so much noise in the market, there's so much competition for attention that it's really easy to get tuned out. So, Stuart Rogers, who's a writer for VentureBeat, covers this topic, weighs in that personalization is all the rage in marketing because it pays, and has a little comment there. But he adds the caveat that it's hard. Marketers want to typically personalize, but they have often very little information. They don't really know the state. Is a customer upper funnel or lower funnel? There's lots of different ways to think about that. So today we're going to talk about personalizing e-commerce experiences, and we're going to kind of analyze user experiences, provide a framework to think about it, and then we're going to look at some different techniques. And in particular today we're going to be talking about e-commerce experiences and content and how to use content to create experiences. Because fundamentally, when people talk about personalization in e-commerce, what they're really talking about is personalizing the experience, and that experience is almost always delivered by content. So what is a content-based experience? What do we mean by that? Well, there's a lot of content in e-commerce, and it can be used to deliver things like a promotional email. So this is a series of content, imagery, kind of banners, promotional banners, product images, maybe some video, editorial content. This shows up in transactional and trigger emails as well. You can see it on home pages. You see it in section pages, which can often be very repetitive, but lots of content available. And you also see it in kind of mobile app experiences as well. So what are the discrete elements of content-based experiences? In other words, what's the type of content that these experiences are assembled out of? Well, one common type is promotions or discounts, and these are typically represented by a particular image. It might be a sale, it might be a particular kind of slice of the catalog that's being promoted. Quite often there's inspiring images, so imagery of, say, a great canyon in the American West that's associated with some products or product category. So it's inspiring kind of intent. Another type of content is branded sections. So a section of a catalog for a retailer that might represent the goods and the product lineup of a particular brand that's sold through that retailer. And then there are many catalog sections. So you can slice a catalog many different ways. You can slice it by product types, like dresses or shoes, there's different brands that can be different levels. There's L1, L2 categories. And so these sorts of catalog slices or subcatalogs typically get represented with an image. and then if the customer, if the consumer is interested in that image, they'll click on it and go to the more detailed section, or they'll go from an email to a website. Another common type is products and product images. And so, how these are represented, there's many different ways, lots of variables, discounts, maybe quantities left. There's different ways to represent that, lots of content around products or ratings and things like that. Another type is editorial content. This can be like a blog post, how-to guides, style guides. This is a growing aspect of content that's being used in the kind of e-commerce environment. And then another type, and this is growing very rapidly, is video content, another type of editorial content. So how do you blend all of these things together and create an experience out of them? Well, that takes a framework for evaluating kind of the experience and what are you trying to deliver. There's some different key metrics, as you do that, and key concepts. The first is relevance, and relevance really means is this experience, is the content that's being shown and related information relevant to what a customer or what a user, what a consumer is interested in at that point in time. And typically, this is often synonymously used with personalization. They're almost interchangeable. And if it's personalized, then it's relevant. But the reality is, when you sort of deconstruct what personalization really means, this concept of only using relevance is incomplete. Another important aspect is freshness. And so when you're evaluating an experience, is it fresh? I mean, is it relevant? Yes, but is it fresh? In other words, if something is relevant to a customer, but they've seen it for the last 3 days in a row in promotional emails, it's no longer very fresh. And therefore it becomes a kind of stale, uninspiring, easily tuned out type of an experience. So freshness is an important dimension as well from our perspective. Diversity, right? So sometimes an experience, can show different products or different catalog types, maybe sub-catalog slices, but it all kind of looks the same. It's all shoes, it's all a certain type of equipment. It might be in a travel sort of experience. It might be kind of all the trips all sort of look the same. So is the content diverse while also being relevant and of course fresh? Is it cohesive? Do the elements work together? If there's a kind of an image that represents a blog post or a video, is that somehow related to the other elements of content that are on the page? Or maybe are there products that are related to that kind of style guide, and are those products tied to it? So is it cohesive? Series adaptation. So this is really closely related to freshness, but we call this adaptation over a series of interactions. Do the experiences adapt based on what you're learning, and avoid repetition of kind of showing the same content again and again. Now this can be a series that are within one channel, like a series of emails, but it can also be a series of interactions that occur over, cross-channel. It can be they see something in email, they see it on the website, they might even see, kind of in a mobile app, potentially even in an ad network. How do you learn from all of those experiences? How do you track all that information? And then when they show up again in another channel, how do you make sure that that next experience is reflecting the learning from what they've engaged with, what they've ignored, and all of that goes in sort of what we call their lifetime profile. So, the last dimension here, the last concept we want to introduce is this experience transactional, or is it something where it's you're building a dialogue or you're building a relationship and it's kind of conversational in nature? And this is kind of a crucial question, and it sort of maps to, are they low in the purchase funnel or in the upper purchase funnel? If they're transactional, you know what they're looking for, they're deep down, then it's transactional. And then you're really trying to say, well, do you want this backpack with these features or this backpack with those features? Or maybe you've zeroed in on a backpack and now you're also looking for something related to that backpack. That's lower funnel. Upper funnel is a much more difficult challenge in that you might not have seen them for a while. You don't know what their intent is. It's a pre-intent state, we describe it as. So you really need to have a way to explore, adapt, and that's where these other dimensions above really become important. And I like to say this is a really important slide because you need to think through these when you're creating a game plan, a strategy to personalize experiences. You need to ask these questions and think through what you're doing. Okay, so now that's a framework for evaluating it. Quite often we get questions. Well, what does Jetlore do here? How does Jetlore insert, its technology and help solve these problems? So, that's what we're going to talk about in the next couple of slides. So, at a real high level, Jetlore does a few things. It ingests your content, and we semantically understand it. So basically, we have a technology that that ingest your content, looks at it, understands what it's about. We build customer lifetime profiles, so we know what your customers, what their interests are, what their changing interests are, and we know for each individual one we build a very large attribute profile. And then what happens is when a customer shows up, Jetlore delivers a personalized experience wherever that customer engages. So this is an example of a personalized experience that would be tailored for an individual customer. And they might be seeing this in an email, they might be seeing it on a web page, or it might be a mobile app experience. So fundamentally, that's at a high level what Jetlore does. We do this at scale. We orchestrate millions of these experiences, tens of millions of these experiences for our customers every month across all their channels. So I wanted to dive a little bit into the orchestration of experiences and kind of what Jetlore does there. What does the tool actually look like? So at the heart of the Jetlore solution is what we call the layout generator. And these are some images, and you're not going to be able to read them. But on the image on the left, you build what we call a layout, and you assemble a layout out of different content elements. And then at the end of that, when you have a layout and maybe some HTML and styling, which can be worked out, you can then generate a code snippet. And that code snippet gets pasted into your email template or your CMS system, and that code snippet says, hey, customer number 1234 showed up, and we're looking for this experience. And then Jetlore in real time generates that experience and delivers it to where it's needed. So what do those experiences look like? Well, it can be a number of things. It can be, like we said, it can be across channels. It can be different sorts of experiences that combine different content types into one cohesive presentation. So one last thing to take a look at is kind of the output. So we were using some of those concepts earlier about how to evaluate the quality of an experience. And so we wanted to talk through what we mean by fresh and relevant and sort of adaptation over a series of experiences. So we have a series here of 3 experiences for one user over a period of time. So what we're going to do is we're going to zero in on this. So we have experience 1, we have experience 2, we have experience 3. And so this is a series of experiences, and it could be, like I said, emails, it could be cross-channel. So we have a couple of different things to think through here. We have a promotional banner, we have some cameras that were related to that, we have small kitchen appliances, and then we have some purses and handbags. So this is a marketplace retailer that has a broad array of products. And in the first experience, these products were selected so that they reflected they were relevant to the customer's profile when this experience was opened up. Let's say it's a promotional email. So now some time has passed, and the customer didn't engage with these items. So experience 2 comes along, and perhaps there's no more clicks on site or on a web on a email to be able to drive further action. That's okay, because Jetlore understands what it showed the customer, it tracks it, and then it can change the next experience to reflect other interests that are in a profile. So here you can see that we had cameras really highlighted in experience 1, and without engagement, cameras were kind of demoted to the second position here in a general category. You can see there's a category tile. You can see that there's kind of some products that are associated with it. And then without further engagement, you can see that by the third experiences, cameras have been dropped. Okay, and so a couple other things to point out. While the small kitchen appliances were shown in this first experience, they were not shown in the second one. But a related category here of other sorts of kitchen items were surfaced, and this had to do with interests that were expressed in the user's previous activity over, could be months, could be years, to be able to surface that. A couple other things: handbags were kind of promoted here in a lower value spot, down in lower in the experience, and then were dropped altogether. In this third experience without engagement. Now, of course, new items can be surfaced as new information arises. New information can be the individual customer can be clicking on the website, and that might promote a new category to the top, like here. And it also could be something along the lines of, a product is trending. It could be seasonal. It could be a holiday is coming. It could be new products are being introduced, and some of them are trending. Jetlore will detect those sorts of things and also inject them into the algorithms that choose what goes into every individual experience. So that's an example of how a fresh, a series of experiences are not only relevant, but they are also fresh because of this adaptation to what's being learned from, kind of the marketplace, what's learned from individual actions, or kind of the customer ignoring something that's been offered. So that's an example of fresh and relevant, and those layouts that we showed in the previous slide will continue to deliver kind of this sort of experience without any kind of touch from the CRM retail marketer. It's all fully automated. So that's an example of kind of how Jetlore addresses kind of the personalization challenges, and kind of a little bit how we think about how to evaluate and deconstruct how to what you are trying to achieve in a particular experience. Thank you for joining today.